Welcome to the Retail Reality Show.
Welcome to another episode of the Retail Reality Show. And by the way, very good dancing, Yana, Yael. So you get a special award for that. Today it's a special episode and show for a particular reason, because as you know, my first co-host, Marty, left to follow his new wellness endeavors, and we found a great new setup with Yael and Nicholas. You already heard a show with them, and I'm very glad and happy because first of all we expand our reach, and secondly we get great new viewpoints into the show, and we can also get great new people like Yana Routshtein. I hope I pronounced that well, and we will get to you in a second. Yana, thank you for joining. Yael, how are you today? Where do we find you?
I'm good. I mean, we'll obviously get into it on the call as well, but we're all just, or some of us are back from NRF and still chasing our inboxes from the days that we missed while we were in New York, and then all the follow-ups from the event. So it's quite intense, but no complaints. It's all good.
I agree. I'm also catching up, but I'm getting there slowly.
Yeah, I narrowed my inbox down from like more than 200 emails to now 50. So I think I'm on the right track.
Very good. And then there's Slack and LinkedIn and a few other channels too, and WhatsApp. Cool. As I said, today we have an amazing guest. We have Yana Routshtein from Walmart. Yana, I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Yana heads up the digital or the personalization in all digital channels at Walmart. And we are really glad and happy you could make it today. But would you quickly introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. And I feel like I missed a lot by not being in NRF this year. It's an event that I like the most, but didn't happen to be there this year. So as Nino just said, so I work for Walmart US. I'm based in Silicon Valley, and I had the personalization platform along with our discovery pages and buy box. So really, if you think about my job is to make sure that our customers feel that their journey is tailored to them as they engage with us, especially in our e-commerce platform. We obviously omni-retailer, so we think across all interactions that we have with our customers. And you know better than anyone else that it happens everywhere and all the time. And my job is really to just kind of help them feel understood, respect their preferences, making sure that they feel that we know them pretty well, especially for those who visit us very often, help guide them through their different journeys. And, you know, Walmart being a retailer that sells so many things that many people don't even know that we have them. And my job is also to inspire them, discover more things with Walmart and start the new journeys with Walmart and maintain that relationship over time. So that's a little bit about me. I have been with Walmart for 6 years now. I'm actually celebrating 6 years today. Fun fact.
Oh, congratulations.
That's a lot. I've never been in any place for 6 years. And the entire time has been with e-commerce in different roles, kind of rotating across the entire journey. And then before that, I was in consulting to, again, retail and consumer clients. And before that, I was in retail. So my entire career is around retail. Like, I'm super passionate about the industry. Every year, I reconsider to do something different. I was like, oh, but there's so much cool stuff happening, and it keeps happening. So I think we're all kind of in this place where it's always evolving and interesting to all of us to stay.
Okay, so you are in e-com for quite a while. Would you say this is the most interesting times in these days? Yesterday we saw DeepSeek. A few months ago it was another model. So the tech is exploding. It feels like. So what's your view?
Oh, DeepSeek was an event. I was like, it's very interesting that we're recording today after the events of yesterday.
Yeah.
So anything I thought about like being applicable yesterday suddenly should be reevaluated. I think it's every year, you know, you look into something that's happening in the industry and you feel like, wow, that's so interesting. And especially the last couple of years across all industries has been like the tech industry is evolving. It's very interesting to watch how both merge, right? Like how the retail comes together with some of the tech advancements, and then how it influences both how customers shop, which is a big thing. Like you see a lot of different trends that emerged in the last year or so. And and what we do to serve their needs on our side and what tech enables us to do. So, yeah, I think another 3-4 years will be quite interesting.
Okay. And then AGI takes over and everything is gone.
I don't know, guys. That's a lot to talk about.
Let's
There's a lot
see.
of considerations.
Yeah, we don't have 40 days, only 40 minutes, right? So
Yeah.
I think this leads us right to the icebreaker questions that we like to ask in the beginning of every episode. So, I mean, we already talked about DeepSeek, but what do you personally prefer? Like, which AI tool are you keen on these days?
I use a few. So I rely on ChatGPT a lot, just for my day-to-day use. I do have Gemini. I have tried others too. Just sometimes I compare results out of curiosity. But I rely quite a bit on ChatGPT, and I really think like it became the Google search for me. That what the Google search used to be a couple of years back, and applications all around, like all around. It's not only about like shopping things that the topic of this conversation, but a lot about solving deeper problems. Like I've been traveling internationally a couple months back. My son had some allergic reaction. They have different medicine. I went and searched on ChatGPT. What is the comparable medicine? How is it called? What's the active ingredient? Like the entire thing, like took me a couple of minutes. You walk to a local pharmacy, you kind of know what to buy, and it's not what I would buy here in US. And I was like, just reflecting on that experience, like, wow, that's what that assistant kind of making your life easier should be. So I think I think it's interesting to see when you compare a few also how they give you different
Yeah, or
results.
combine results from like different ones.
Yeah. I mean, like if you think about industrial applications, probably a lot of companies combine a few, right? But personally, you well, there are a few agents that you can use that combine too. But personally, I just find it still very, very interesting how they sometimes give very, very different results.
Hmm.
And for personal shopping for your home, for your family, do you shop online or in store?
No, I shop online a lot. But only I would say I'm still me personally. Again, not you as a average consumer. That's a different thing. But me personally, I think I use a lot of these tools for search, still not to make my choices necessarily between different retailers. If you think about like the journey of shopping on ChatGPT, for instance, or Gemini, customers usually would ask something, you learn about the product, sort of like you go through that understanding of the product, and then you can ask them like, where can I buy it? Or they will give you options where you can find it. So I think I'm more still on that learning kind of side of things, and then comparing. But then sometimes I do transact on different platforms for what they would recommend. But we have seen, like, if you look at the average customer, like I think about 20% of US customers today, like they are impacted by the like connect actually like having those conversations with the AI agents, and they go and they transact based on those recommendations. So that's
Yeah.
one of the trends.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that we've reached to a level where we can trust an AI assistant to decide on what medicine to buy. That's incredible.
I just wanted to say, I mean, that's also, I mean, depending on the medicine you take, that's a lot of trust you have to have in the AI.
Yeah, well, eventually we do go to a store and we ask the pharmacist, and and they can
Yeah,
warn us if it's not the right direction, but at least you get some direction.
Yeah.
but guys, I was thinking, if you think about it, that's because we, right, we were born before AI, and there's certain common knowledge we have. So once you read those things, you apply a bit of critical thinking on what you know. Like, right, like I mean, I didn't approach that completely blind, like I don't know anything about it. I was
Hmm.
very specific in trying to navigate that situation. It's a very interesting topic of its own. Like, if you don't know anything about the subject and you go and you ask some of these tools, do you have the actual ability to judge where it's true or hallucination and whatnot? So I think that's a topic that keeps me up at night. Like, what do I teach my kids in the age when everything can be solved with AI?
Yeah.
And how do they make those decisions and understand what's true and what's not?
Yana, I think I have so many questions because you are working for one of the biggest global retailers and you lead personalization and digital trends, as you said in the beginning. That makes you a particular interesting partner for discussing trends that you see. Obviously, I guess many tech vendors are knocking on your door every day. You are going to the major events. You have probably analysts. Fill us in. What are the biggest trends you're seeing in commerce in these days?
I'll take probably step back before we start talking about Gen AI interesting stuff, because we need to
Sure.
assess like the maturity of the industry and where we are. In the
Yep.
end of the day, if you think about retail, e-commerce specifically, what we do is to get the right product to the right customer at the right price and speed, right? So before we jump even talking about right product, right customer, and everything available in technology these days, if you look into the trends for the last few years, price and speed are absolutely essential. You have to meet that. It doesn't matter that you have like the most beautiful experience. Like the customers are very price sensitive when it comes to retail. We have just lived for 2 years inflation. Yes, it's slowing down. Yes, people taking steps to get it better, but customers just literally have less money to spend. So you cannot neglect the sensitivity to price, which really stays the top consideration for customers, especially when it comes to their day-to-day spend.
Yep.
Speed also becomes extremely kind of dominant component in all of that. So customers get used to like getting things really, really fast. Amazon Prime can get you stuff in day two. Walmart can get you stuff from the nearby store in an hour, 3 hours, tomorrow, you pick. So even for price sensitive customers, we really see that becoming a norm. So if you're suddenly a smaller seller in a marketplace and it takes you 3 days to ship, well, that puts you in a bit of a disadvantage. So these are like must happen. This is a foundation. Like without that, you cannot even successfully compete in the market.
Like hygiene factor, speed
Yeah.
and price.
And these are expensive, by the way, to maintain, right? So I don't want to neglect that. Like if you think about making strategic choices where I invest in some of the emerging technology in the business of low margins, when you are under time pressure for price, and you need to be very successful in shipping fast, which is also quite expensive many times, you really are like your options are pretty narrowed, like depending on the size of a retailer. But it's important to understand this puts more pressure on you to be even more profitable. And you see this race to profitability across all retailers. You see Amazon experimenting with different layers of their, pricing on the Prime. Like everyone is trying to find opportunities to get a bit more profitable.
I mean, if you just when I chime in, if you look at Europe, I mean, I'm from Germany, so we have Aldi, Lidl. They are the champions in efficiency, probably, and attractive price value ratio, and they're expanding to other regions, like the US, and especially in times when budgets are tight. I think they gained a lot of market share in the last 2 years, which they now maintain. And I think established players, more the premium grocers, have a big issue when it comes to that.
They're pretty good, by the way. I heard great things about them. That every time I go to Europe, I try to stop by the store and see what's latest there. From my consulting days, we did a lot of learning on how they run. And then just kind of getting back to the right product to the right customer. This is where, on the experience side, we see a lot of innovation.
Yeah, this is the personalization. The core of personalization is really to cater to a specific customer and their needs, right?
That's true. That's true. And then a couple more things sort of on top of that. So if you think about it, like probably 3 years ago or so, majority of the conversations were around how do I get my platform better? How to invest in those things to like get the right thing to the right customer? How do I work with Google to be the top of the choice in their search? Because your journey was very set, I would say. Like the majority of customers were going for similar journeys. Today, you see this extreme spike of social, customer shopping on social. I mean, it started more than 3 years ago. I'm just saying, like, when it started getting such an acceleration that it becomes really meaningful to your business. So you have the social piece. You have a lot of direct to consumer. If you look into like who is spending money on retail today, so obviously majority of the higher spenders are still millennials. Those are like good value seekers, kind of they still have these habits of shopping the retailers, going to Google, whatnot. But your next generation, Gen Z, this is the social, this is the direct to consumer, this is extreme loyalty to small brands, and they shop very differently. And then on top of that, you have all these tools available for the customers to shop in a completely different ways. So as a retailer, you need to one constantly think how you get your platform better using all these different tools to appeal to customers. Like I think the top one used last year was all for shopping was the agents, the chatbots of the sort, and you see them implemented across many, many retailers. So that's like you get to the reality where it's almost like must to have for you because customers getting used to it in other platforms. And then add to that you need to constantly think about your presence in social, your presence in targeting customers and getting them directly to your platform. So all of that on the smaller brands who direct to consumers where you play against them. And I think that creates this very, very complex ecosystem sort of where you need to make a lot of different choices and really see what plays well with your strategy.
It's funny how you're talking about how Walmart needs to compete with direct to consumer brands when they probably feel the opposite, right? When you're getting into the market with the direct to consumer brand, it's very difficult because you don't have the resources to be on all the platforms and to have they start off without an audience, right? So it's harder to make experiments and to know what's working and what's not working for you guys. You already have the audience. So if you want to test something new, you can basically A/B test and see how the audience reacts to that.
That's true, but on the other side, it's more nuanced. I think some of these smaller retailers are winning some of these specific audiences because they cater to this audience. So, like, let's pick a, I don't know, some fashion retailer that is specifically appealing to Gen Z, right? And they kind of talk to that audience.
Yeah.
You see, one of the trends that you see is retailers inviting, especially brands that really have a focus on one story around something specific that they do, they invite communities of their customers, influencers to shape things with them, right? And then it becomes very nuanced. It's very one-to-one, that's personal relationship, and they're winning that share with that customer for that specific product. When you compare that to larger retailers, and obviously like Walmart, Amazon's of the world, a big exception because they like have everything of everywhere. But if even you go to middle size, where you department stores of the overworld, right? Like when you have selection of things, suddenly you need to be more nuanced. Like you want to take to this audience in this way, someone else who shops this brand that you carry under your umbrella in a different way. So it's an interesting personalization platform problem, by the way, to solve how you sell different brands or different products differently for different audiences. But this is why that becomes a concern, sort of, or something that you should keep eyes on. I wouldn't say like, there are a bunch of considerations, but you have to be aware of that because you have a whole generation that 10 years from now will be your key purchasing power and they shop differently. So you can print money today, but you need to think about the future.
Yeah.
And it starts with probably understanding your customers. Like you said, I mean, Walmart is you have a multitude of brands. You're not a D2C company. You have if you take a category like ketchup or, I don't know, meat, you have 100 different of those. Yeah, probably, and you need to understand and read out of the data or implicit, explicit data, which brand does the customer prefer, and then ideally show it when they put together the cart or even propose a cart, probably in the future.
It's a combination of things.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly double click on what you just said on social commerce, because social commerce is such a big buzzword. It has become such a big buzzword. And I would be interested, what exactly do you mean? Is that rather advertising organically on TikTok or Instagram where you put influencers on your brand spaces there? Or is it more shop on those platforms, like TikTok shop? Or is it just placing a link directing them to your own .com, or how do you see social commerce and different flavors of that?
It's actually a very good question because I think as you research, like a lot of things are being mixed under one umbrella. I think Yael is like even better expert than myself in that. So I'll respond what I meant, and then please feel free to chime in. What I meant less of the advertisement when you see kind of targeted ads for you on Instagram inviting you to shop things at Amazon or Walmart. I meant more of the smaller brands that use also the checkout capabilities that exist in these social platforms. So they all target you with the product and they basically supply you the full solution of like transacting, then shipping it to your house. So that's more of like this direct to consumer kind of thing that happens right there, and you're not referring to, you're leading to some retailer website to go and complete your transaction. And it creates two things. One is, again, these are the products, many times these are unique products that customers attracted to that you cannot find many times in retailers. And then I think a lot of the larger retailers actually learn what sells and try to onboard these brands. You see that happening, so they have it as part of their portfolio of products. But the second thing is also sort of takes away that opportunity from you to start that conversation with the customer and start getting more things that you can offer to them and like start that relationship, right? So because that happens right there, it's not only that you have this competing sale of some product that's maybe brand that you don't carry, it also takes away from you the opportunity to start engaging with that customer. So both are not necessarily great outcomes if you're competing against some of these brands.
Makes sense.
I
Yeah.
think there are two more aspects to this. So one is when you're on social media, you're not necessarily in the mindset of shopping. You might be in a mindset of like getting inspiration and discovery. But I mean, social platforms have been trying to do social commerce for many years now, and it's only now starting to pick up. There's a reason to that, right? It's the same customer, but with a different mindset. So when you convert them to your website, it immediately kind of changes their mindset into a shopping mindset. But when you keep everything on the same platform, it wouldn't necessarily work the same way. And then the other aspect is the dependency, right? If you get used to do all of the customer journey on a platform that's not owned by your brand, it's a third party platform that can tomorrow, as you know, we saw just last week with TikTok, it might stay, it might not stay. And even if it stays, they can change the rules. They change the rules all the time. They change the algorithms all the time. They change the experience all the time. And as a brand, you have very, very little control over the experience and the customer journey. So would you as a brand really want to be dependent on what a third party platform dictates as the way to do things?
It's a really, really good point. And that is why you see some of the smaller ones probably who try to enter the market, build their brand, as you said, understand their audiences before they can scale on their own using those more than the larger ones where you have more of a brand control and reputation means a lot to you and whatnot.
Just looking a little bit at time, that's very interesting discussion on social commerce, but I would particularly be interested of your opinion and your views, Yana, on AI. Because we talked or we started discussing about biggest trends in e-commerce, and we started with DeepSeek and ChatGPT. So I think it would be very interesting to get your view on how do those things change personalization.
So I think they impact two kind of aspects of what we do. One is how customers shop. We talk about some other trends in this, but like again, I'm using the chats, like what you can integrate in your experience, what customers expect to be part of your experience as like the entire industry evolves. And there's another side of how you use them in order to make your platform better and kind of marry the two. So um, let's take an example, work for an example, and then we can see like how experience sort of evolved in the last couple of years. And I'm going to go a bit broader than personalization for this because I think this is where we are in a world where like new connections sort of being created, or the ways we learn about customers like work very differently. So today, 2 years ago, you would search, you go to the to e-commerce platform, you search something, you get your search results. If the retailer is advanced in terms of some of their personalization capabilities, will start layering in understanding of you, what you are most likely to interact out of set of all options available in a catalog. You'll see that coming to cross in ranking, like what do you see first, what do you see next. There's maybe brands you purchased before, maybe things that we predict that you may be more likely to buy based on your other preferences, and it's all kind of world of different probabilities predicting what is it that you're most likely to do. Then you start interacting, you get recommendations is a big piece of anything AI related still, right? You keep building, like you keep shopping, you go to product pages, you read through this, you make your own decisions. You're sort of like you're guided quite a bit, but you're also learning and doing a lot of the lift yourself to try to understand different components.
It's kind of like a restaurant when you have a menu, but at the end of the day, you're making the choice. And versus, going to a chef's restaurant where, you have this chef tasty meal where they serve you the entire meal.
Yes, it's almost like I would put it slightly differently. Like it's a really good analogy. I would say you get a menu, and if you're vegan, you have all the vegan beans formed as vegan, so you clearly know what to do. Today, you go to a retailer, you go to search. Your search is different. Like let's say you search for a TV, you can go. There's a chat window pops up, and you're not just saying like, "Hey, I'm wanting a TV," but you can literally throw all your choices there and get what. So you say, "I want a TV of X inch. I care about good quality. I don't care about weight. I'm making it up, right? Like, and that thing is like durability, whatever is important for me." And then it gives you the options for those specific things, which is the catered menu from the chef to your example, because it's not like you need to go and narrow down your choices further. You get that, you get a summary of why you're seeing what you're seeing and how it's doing against the key attributes of that product that you care about. Because you literally just said that this is what you care about, and it's not like we need to guess. And then you're pretty much done. Like then later we can recommend you the TV stand, the cables, whatever their PlayStation goes with, whatever you like other things you may be interested. And that's an interesting change of how this like technology helps to solve for the same use case, I would say, on the customer making the choice, but it's done very differently. So this is where if you bring under the same umbrella both the understanding of that explicit intent that customer gives you, like this is what I want, and the implicit intent on the personalization side of this is I know what you are most likely to buy, how price sensitive you are, what brands you prefer, what not. Well, that's like you get to point B much faster. So I think it's on the experience side. On the other side, we also need to understand that to deliver on this experience, you are very much rely on the availability of all these different data parameters to be served to you, right? So it's one thing the customer tells you like, oh, this is what I want. And the other side to understand where the agent, the algo can get this data, right?
And not just that, there are, kind of implications from the retailer, right? Because if you have inventory that you want to push, you need to take those into account when you're giving those personalized recommendations as well. But I want to take it into a more practical. I mean, if we can get some actionable insights for our listeners today. Let's say that I am a retailer that is looking to start implementing AI across the business. Could you maybe walk me through the practical how and what will be the first steps that you would recommend?
First of all, I would highly recommend not to jump on the hype just because everyone is in the hype of doing something. It's very important. We just talked about profitability, the choices of what you invest in, how you invest in, like extremely important. So you go back to the strategy, what is it that you're doing? And you're really evaluating if this is something that you need. Now, before yesterday, I could say like it's a very expensive business to do, but yesterday we saw just a different way of doing things. But let's talk about all the considerations that should go in this, right? Like, number one, there's models are not perfect. You have reputational risk. For larger retailers, the risk is higher than for smaller retailers. Something you need to think about. If it's customer facing, super important. How much risk are you willing to accept? Number two, the costs, right? Yes, you have a lot of open source models that can be used. But if you're running a business at scale, there is cost of like computing costs actually running this, right? Like you need the energy, you need the chips, you need whatever. Otherwise, it's like super slow, which you also cannot afford, right? So
And the
that's
implementation and
a lot
onboarding.
of things. Yeah.
Maintenance.
Honestly, like if you have few talented engineers, obviously you can grab these models and you do experiment things. But in certain point, you'd like you need the power to run it, and that becomes very important. Um, I wouldn't talk about any regulatory because I don't think we're in the stage where someone has any regulations around it. We still don't know how to regulate social media. So that's past. So
The
you basically make
wild
choices.
west.
Yeah. So you make those choices basically, again, going back to reputational risks. And I think like that's the component how tight it is to your strategy. So if you're like, let's break it down to like an example, right? Like if you are you're an investor that leads with experience, then yes, you will start actively thinking about it. Like, okay, let's say I sell high consideration products, I sell fashion. And then you have some of the leaders in the industry who do have larger pockets from other businesses around, like Amazon, right? Like Amazon relies on other businesses that are not retail, right, to basically keep their profitability going. So if they start investing in things like item summaries and item description and review summaries in item page, and that becomes a norm, like you cannot go away. Like you need to think proactively how you can serve to that, because that's such an essential part of your experience. Customers consider a bunch of things, you're going to lose. But if you're a grocery retailer, I mean, what's important for that banana? That it's like well priced, you get it with speed again, and maybe like you pick a couple of components, nutrition value, but not. Then you make this choice, like, like maybe I'm not there, and to start this game, it's like it's not the top priority for me. So just going back to this, like I think it's extremely, extremely important that we think about what is it that we do, like how it aligns to our strategy. If you were following different products and features being shipped by different retailers using AI, it's very funny to see that a lot of us landed in pretty much the same place. So you see applications of agents that we discussed, you see summaries of products, you see summaries of reviews, you see some of the guiding components popping up here and there. I personally don't believe it's random. Because it's like when you think about this problem, it's two ways. Or one is customers getting used to something, I need to make sure that I have that to offer. Or I'm solving the same customer problem. If I'm mass retailer, Walmart, Target, Amazon, like all the world, like my customers coming to buy certain things with me, it's the same. Like the customer need of what they're buying didn't necessarily change. And then you think, what is more efficient, more engaging way of solving this? So in the end, you end up with very similar solutions. Now, if you compare the size, reputational risk also becomes a problem with like the same concern, and then you're playing safe. And then you see people saying something like, well, generated by AI. And that comes from this, and that comes from that, because you want to make sure you don't surface it in the same way that you would say something that's very deterministic. So, by the way, to that reputation risk, like I think a lot of the things that Amazon does on the marketplace of site does for the same reason. When you have a lot of solutions, AI solutions being available for sellers to use, but on their own risk, right? Because Amazon will not just go and create these images. They'll not do like different things. They will put it on sellers, give them options, but then they carry the responsibility of the information that they provide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Just double click. Sorry.
And then if it works, then they can implement that at scale, right?
Yeah, but I just feel like it's like there's such a great area right now. You can also ship something like you see it very often. As you said, like you A/B test, you have a scale of customers, you're a large retailer, let's say, right? Like you test the feature, but then somewhere down the line, something hallucinates and it's a specific product and it comes from nowhere and you're like, oops. And it happens to the best and everyone, because this is just maturity, like where we are with the solutions.
I mean, probably it's a learning curve that many businesses need to go through. And also, like you said, make a conscious decision if they would accept that risk or not. And I'm working with businesses that have decided, no, we won't expose it to consumers first. We do it internally. Yeah? So we expose it to our support agents. We put it on the desks of our marketeers to be faster and more efficient in content generation. So I think that's also a strategy. You have to take a conscious decision, I think, like you said.
I actually think it's a great strategy. If there's a lot of solutions in the backend.
What I think since the hype started with AI, I think many people completely forget about the grounding and the roots which enable AI ultimately, which is data. I think all of a sudden natural or LLMs and GPTs produce great output in a language you can understand. It's not code, it's voice. It's easy to understand, but I think the quality comes with the data being fed into those models. And if you have, like in a retail environment, you have point of sale, you have e-com, you have personalization engine, you have delivery platforms. There are so many data points that you have to bring together in order to make something meaningful out of it. My question would be, where do you see the biggest challenges and obstacles when it comes to data, and how do you solve them?
The interesting trend that I have seen is there's a lot of new companies that come with agents that sit on top of the data. So you basically introducing that layer of another agent that can find different patterns in the data, explain, structured and unstructured, whatever, do different manipulations to make sure that data is in a better shape before you run any of the algos, so your quality of outcome is better. It's definitely something that a lot of tech leaders thinking about so it's actually beyond retail in a way, but you're right, data and quality of data is a key concern when it comes to those solutions. Now the funny thing that we have seen, it's a brain of a sort, right? It's not a human brain, but it's a brain of the sort that drives logical connections. So many times you see different things coming and surfacing. Things that, like, not pretty things that we didn't know, so it kind of exposes it too.
I think it also raises the infinite question of build versus buy, right? I mean, with AI now it becomes easier for retailers and brands to build their own tech stack, right? Using a lot of open source tools. But would that be the best solution? Or the word is going, as you said, more and more towards like AI agents that specialize on specific challenges, right? And there are already some tech companies that took the AI models and used them to develop specific answers to those specific challenges. So how do you evaluate the opportunity when you have a specific customer problem or anything else that arises, if you want to build your own solution with your own team or to source an existing solution from the market?
I think that the easiest way to do it is like how core it is to your business. How big is the risk that you're taking? If you really need certain amount of control and it's absolutely essential for your business to be successful, then building is a way. Sometimes it takes longer. But if that's not something that's can break things, we can get there faster with third-party solutions. I also think there is a certain third category sort of where applying third-party solutions gives you actually more value. If you look into, I keep going to fashion beauty retailers because like this is an interesting area of its own there where you don't have large tech teams. That's not the core of what you do. Your core is to design really good product, good quality of product. Your core is to inspire customers a certain lifestyle. So then why wouldn't you buy? You would just buy some expertise. It will be faster for you. It's not core to your business. And on top of that, you'll probably learn from what others do. So when you think about personalization solutions and different algorithms for prediction, ranking, things like that, if I'm going and applying it across 3-4 different fashion retailers that are comparable, I'm actually learning quite a bit. I'm not necessarily like, it's not the same customer. I'm not taking any personal stuff out, right? Like I'm training algorithm on a larger set of data. So every incremental customer I bring gets a lot better quality of tech being deployed. So in that case, it's an absolute buy because you know exactly what it costs you. You can control, and it's not core to your business. You can spend the biggest brains of your business to do what is core for you to do, and that's an enabler for you.
Great. I like that. And I've seen that also you did a sub-vertical specific example, like fashion versus grocery. You can do the same for line of business. So customer service, I think it's also a commodity, and you learn from other, let's say, applications and installations because the SaaS business is aggregating that up and solidifying the solution. So I'm conscious of time. Yana, we get great input from your end. Every time we, at the end of a podcast, we ask the same question. And the question is very simple. And I will just read it, and I would be curious on your answer. If you could give one piece of advice to a CEO of a big retailer in these days, what would it be, Yana?
I think staying curious and staying close to your customer. I'll give you like this morning, I actually was listening to our Chief Growth Officer, Seth Deller, and he was sharing a bunch of examples on how he is using ChatGPT with different questions and Perplexity, and then and Gemini, and like I was comparing and laughing about it. But watching him do that got me thinking that that's actually like what we have to do as leaders, and as you go up, you can get very disconnected sometimes from like what's happening with your customers. So I think staying and living day to day the life of your customers and understanding what they're actually going through, like really helps you make better decisions. The amount of emails I get from our CEO, from John Furner, on like, I saw this, that didn't make sense to me. Why this is what we are doing is insane. Like, and every time I talk to my team, I keep saying, you know why he's producing all this feedback? Because he is actually shopping Walmart for everything that he needs in his life. And then he's able to uncover all the things that our customers are uncovering. So I think maintaining that connection with your customer, there's nothing else that can replace it, because there's no other way for you to learn and uncover gaps in the experience and keep evolving and understanding where they're going as a customer. So I think that's probably the key thing that we all should keep doing.
Well,
So
that's
basically
the
keep
advantage of
customer
retail.
centric.
Yeah, the advantage of retail is that we are both the retailer and the customer at the same time.
That's a fun part about our industry, right? You can live it. You can live it every day. You want to go experience something, you want to compare something, you're going to try something, you just go and do it yourself. And then you're like, now I know how it feels. That's another great point to finish on why we're all in retail business.
And that's why also probably the retailers and the brands are all keeping up with the recent trends, because they experience it on their own.
Yeah.
And
We're
with Gen
watching
Z,
our
I
kids
think
how
I
they
would
shop.
I would even add with Gen Z, you have to force yourself into new shoes, because if you're getting older, like my mom, she's on Instagram, Facebook, she's not into TikTok. But I think if you want to understand the younger consumer groups, I like also social media, Blue Sky, for example. Today I read there are many video platforms emerging on Blue Sky, on the protocol that kind of emulate TikTok, but are a little bit different. And probably there's another ecosystem created, a sub-Gen Z, whatever. And I think you have to force yourself into those younger groups in order to understand how they shop.
Well, this is what we have kids for.
No, jokes aside, I was doing assessment the other day across my team who is using what, and I was like, I need to hire a couple more people who are active on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you guys, I guess we have an educational gap here. Then I need to make sure that we are all somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, there's this great, not sure if you know, and even Walmart, I think there are some employees. I saw this TikTok of an Aldi employee who got viral. She was sitting on the checkout and I think she did a dance or something like this, and it got viral. And you can find the same with Walmart employees who are very enthusiastic about their job and what they do on the shop floor. And people like this, and it gets viral all of a sudden. And I think that's a very interesting thing going on.
New ways to build your brand.
Well, Yana, thank you so much for being with us today. This was fascinating.
Thank
I
you so
agree.
much for all the questions. You pushed me thinking about certain things. So I appreciate that. It's very nice to go and look back and understand where we are. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you, Jana. Appreciate your time. Let's connect in a couple of months and see how things have developed.
Yeah, we'll see if anything that we said actually like evolved to something that we predicted. Let's do that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the
Thank you.
time.